So today we're going to be learning about putting together a website using GitHub and Jekyll. I will explain those terms for those of you that are not familiar with them. But before that, I guess I was curious to hear from the group kind of what motivated you to attend a workshop like this. So like maybe you have never put together a website, or like maybe you have like a career related motivation in mind. So anyone interested in sharing? Yeah, valid. And maybe some of you are also here for the same reason. And really the point of this workshop is not to get into a lot of technical details, but really just show you the basics of putting this together, like a website with these tools. And then after that, you hopefully would be equipped with enough to be able to like do more advanced stuff. But I'll say upfront that I'm also happy to provide additional insight, help, or whatever after the workshop, both in terms of like technical aspects of building the site and also in terms of giving you feedback about the content of it. So with that, like I maybe I should give a little bit of context. So my name is Daniel Serrano. I am a faculty specialist, so that's a non-tenure track faculty position in the Institute for Physical Science and Technology. And since I graduated from grad school, I've been working on various sort of like programs in research training. So with postdocs, grad students, undergrads, and I'm the person that organizes the professional development parts of those programs. So I have some experience in all of these topics. I think so when I was a grad student, I didn't have a website, but I always wished I had one. And I was like, how do I do this in an easy way that is not like using one of those services that will have all the logos showing, like that you're paying for it or something, or that it's free, but you need ads. So I think this is like my solution, what I think is kind of an easy way to achieve something that looks professional, kind of like simple without having those other aspects that, you have an easy way to make a Google site or something on Wix or whatever, but then it will have a little bit of less professional look. And I think this is a good solution. So what we're doing is basically working with a template called Minimal Mistakes. And maybe some of you have already seen this, but what the product after today will look like is this. So maybe some of you have seen this template, right? You will put together something like this. And of course, there are downsides of using something like a template because then everyone starts looking the same. And today we're not going to learn a lot about customizing it, but it is possible to go take this baseline and create something a little bit more unique. And again, I'd be happy to talk after the workshop if you want to take it to that level. As an example, this is what typically people put together when they use the minimal mistakes template, but inside of the things that it offers, you have the ability to put something together like this with like a header, an image, and then like different like sub sections that allow you to, as an example, you could have different projects that have these like subsections with a photo, and then you can go to each of the projects. So hopefully everyone set up a GitHub account. And after this, basically, I'm just going to like do a series of steps. When I do tutorials, I offer the opportunity for you to follow along with me. If you are at a point where you're like, oh, this didn't work as it worked when you showed it on the screen, feel free to interrupt. And I'm happy to, and I hope the whole group is also happy to like make sure everyone's like staying, on pace. But also if you prefer, it's fine if you just want to take notes and watch. And then, like I said, I'm recording this for some people that weren't able to attend. And if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to send you the link, all right? Because I know, sometimes it might be easier to just look and instead of trying to do it at the same time. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to log into GitHub. So go to github.com and log into your account. And I have already logged in, but what you should see is something like this with, maybe you won't have some repositories if you had never done anything in GitHub before. GitHub is basically the location in which you're going to host your web page, your website. And there's a lot more to GitHub than what we're using it for. I will talk a little bit about it later. But in order to get started with the template, the minimal mistakes template, now that you've logged in, let's go ahead and go to github.com/mmistakes. And you should see something like this. And now we're going to go to repositories up here, this tab at the top. And we're going to find the minimal mistakes page starter. So for me, it's showing up as the second one. Hopefully that's the same for everyone else. So we're gonna go to this link here. And you should see something like this that has this data, pages, post, etc. But if you scroll down, you'll see a little bit of text. And what we're going to do is just tell it to use this template. All right. So use this template, and it should take you to this new page that says create a new repository. That's what that link was, like a prompt for GitHub to create a new repository. I'm happy to explain about repositories. That's not super relevant for our purposes. But basically, this is going to copy that minimal mistakes project that we saw before with all those documents. It's going to make a copy of that for you. And now you have control over that copy. And basically, that's the template. We are copying the template to your account. All right. Something important to note here is that when you go down to owner, it should just list your username and then /repository name. So this is where we're going to be able to tell GitHub the URL of our site. If you add anything here in this box, like let's say portfolio or something, and this is just an example, I'm going to ask you to do something different in a second. Then your URL that you tell people to go to, in this case, would be the name of your account, .github.io/portfolio. All right. So that's how you tell people to go to your website, right? If you want, this is kind of not very intuitive, but if you want your URL to just be username.github.io without /anything, what you have to do is in this box, you have to enter your username. And this is what I want you to do now. So like, let's go ahead and fill out that box with your username .github.io. So that is kind of not super intuitive, but that's how you make it so that for you to be able to tell people to go to your website and that URL to just be account name.github.io, that's how you do it. Okay. So everyone okay on that end? So at this point, we've copied the repository and are filling that box. Whatever is showing up under owner, that should be what you use. So at that point, you just can create a repository. Of course, the default is public, and you want it to be public because you're trying to give everyone access to your site. Okay. So at that point, just create the repository. I'm just gonna generate your repository. Take a little bit of time, maybe. And then you should see this here, which is basically, as I said before, it copied all of those files into your account, and now you have your site. So if you all go to a new tab and you go to your username .github.io, you should see a new created site that has the template. So let's check on that. Mine is not showing up. Let's try again. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I think I can explain what happened in a sec. So what was happening is if you go to this tab, Actions, you should see something that says Pages, Build, and Deployment. Does everyone see that? When we were going to that URL and it was saying 404, it was not a check mark. It was like a spinning wheel. It was building the page. All right. So we should all be good. So everyone's okay with their minimal mistakes template loaded? Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is an important aspect of using GitHub. There's this Actions tab that will be doing some things in the background. Sometimes whenever like you tell it to do something, that's where it'll show up. And here it was building the page and deploying it. That will make more sense in a second. So let's go back to our let's go to this tab that says code. And you should see all those files that we copied. And let's click on config.yml, YAML is how I think it's pronounced. So now I'm going to explain this a little bit better. So those of you who are trying to catch up will have a chance because I'm just going to talk for a sec. So what we're using is Jekyll. Jekyll is a static site generator. So what that means is that it takes some code that is not a static site and it creates, in this case, an HTML site. It's taking some language that you use to like code your site, and then it creates an HTML out of it. So what's happening here is that you don't have to know HTML, but you will end up with an HTML page, okay? Specifically, what we're using is Markdown. It's a language, I don't know, so maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a way to like code that it's simpler than like HTML. So that's what's happening here. Jekyll is a static site generator that uses layouts. And the layout that we're specifically using today is Minimal Mistakes. There are a variety of other layouts. So if once we're done with this workshop, you can easily go and browse other types of layouts and do the same process. I mean, you have to do a little bit of reading on the specifics. Not all of them work the same way, but most of them will have some sort of like copy this template and have a similar approach of like, now you have the files in your own repository and you have the template and you edit the files that you copied to your own liking. So if you go to, you don't necessarily have to do this step, but if you were to go to github.com/topics/Jekyll theme, that is like their tag for a bunch of Jekyll layouts. Minimal mistakes. These are ranked by the most stars, and minimal mistakes have 12,000 or something. It's the most popular layout, and maybe that's one explanation why you might have seen that minimal mistakes in some people's academic web pages and stuff. The second one is this one called Al-Shedivat, Alfolio, or I guess the user is Al-Shedivat, Alfolio. I like this one quite a bit. The reason we're not doing the tutorial with that one is because it's more complicated to set it up and all of that. But actually, this one has some nice features. Maybe I can show you real quick. So yeah, this is like the baseline for the Alfolio one. And the reason I like this one, for example, is because it has this feature where you can do publications drawing from a BibTeX file. So you can automatically have this like library of all your like papers or whatever and feed it into the page. And it just like creates this like very nice looking list with like links and like already formatted and everything. That's one reason I like this one. Another one is has this CV template where you feed it a bunch of information in like a text document, and it creates this nice looking like version of a CV, right? So we're doing the much simpler minimal mistakes, but as an example, you could potentially then on your own, and also, like I said, with my help, I'd be happy to help you set up something with a different layout, with a different Jekyll theme. So yeah, that was a little bit of explanation, and now we're gonna just keep going. So this config YML file that we are looking at now is this sort of like top-down configuration file for your web page. It just has a bunch of information that tells it what to do and how to do it. As an example, yeah, it has this thing called minimal mistakes skin, which we're going to change later. That tells it has like a subset of different color like schemes that you can pick your own. So it's sort of like a setting that bleeds into all of the other sub pages that you create. All right. Then you should be seeing this menu on the side if you like followed all the steps that I had that I followed. And what I want to show you now is that you have this other folder called assets. And if you go into assets, you will see a subfolder called images. And basically that's where the way that everything is set up with this minimal mistakes is that here you can store all of the photos and different things that you are going to host on your site. This goes under assets/images. Right now, the only thing in there is this bio photo, which is the one that shows up in the template when you go there, right? Like it's this like sort of generic silhouette. So what I want us all to do is I want us to upload our own photos. So, you know, if you saw the email, I was asking you to bring a photo ready. If you don't have one ready, you know, Google something and put it there. Like basically we're gonna upload a photo. For me, as an example, I'm not gonna do my own. I'm gonna do this photo of a dragon slug, which is an animal I recently found out about that is awesome. So I'm going to download. So I put that in my downloads folder, and now I'm going to upload it. It's very simple. We just go to add file up at the top. Make sure that you're under images, right? And when you go to add file, you just upload files. And you either drag in and drop it in here or choose your file. So I'm gonna choose this dragon, which I don't see here. Oh, that name is not gonna be good. Let me change the name real quick. So as I'm doing this, I also recommend that before uploading, you give it like a simple name. It can just be like photo or yeah, dragon slug for me. Give it a short, easy name because we're going to refer to that file in a second. So it's better to just have something that you can easily recall. But yeah, just drag it and drop it in there or choose the file. It should just show up here down as, you know, being ready to be uploaded. And then if you keep scrolling, you'll see this thing that says commit changes. This is something important in GitHub. This is not a GitHub tutorial per se, so I'm not gonna really get into like what committing changes and all of that means. But it is good practice whenever you're doing things in GitHub to document anything that you do. And this is where you have the opportunity to do so. So basically, what you would do if you were following practice is to say add dragon slug photo, right? So just like the action that you took, like a really short description of the action that you did as a documentation of that, because GitHub is going to keep track of all of that in the background and you can refer back to it. That's not super important for the website thing, but that for other things in GitHub, that's very important. So once you give a little description to that, you can commit changes, and that is where it like actually uploads your photo. I will do a quick check, even though it's not super like necessary, but if I go to my images, I see my dragon slug JPEG in there, right? And you should have whatever you uploaded as well. Okay, so we're going now to go to this index HTML. All right, and we're just gonna like click on it. And this is an empty file. It just has these like this short description. And what we want to do is, I don't want to get too much into the details of explaining this, but right now this file is kind of like not being read necessarily by GitHub and putting it as a part of your website. And we want to do that. We want that index to be our homepage. So we're going to like make it so that whenever you go to your core URL, the first thing that is going to show up is whatever you are putting under this index file. In order to do that, it's very simple. We just have to change the extension of this file to another file type. And we're gonna do that by going to this icon here on the right top that is like a pencil that will allow us to edit the file. And we're going to change the HTML, just that part after the period, to MD, okay? We're making it into a Markdown file. So that's referring back to that language that I told you about, Markdown. We're gonna talk about that in more detail when we start populating our site. And then we are just going to, again, the kind of like language for GitHub of saving something is to commit the changes. So we're gonna hit commit changes. And then something nice that GitHub does is that when your action is simple enough, it tells you, it gives you, pre-populates that text box. So it actually told me, right? Like rename index HTML to index.md. And that's a pretty good description. So I'm just gonna commit the changes and we're good. Yeah, so what we've done is we've converted our HTML into a Markdown file. Markdown is what is called, like formally, it's called a light markup language. So markup, a light version of markup is Markdown. Basically, what light means is that it's very simple. It's like whenever you see code for HTML or something, you have all these brackets and things like that. A simplified language, a light language, like Markdown as an example, allows you to make something bold by adding asterisks in front and after the word, instead of having to put like, if it was HTML, you would put like bracket, bold, close bracket, the text, and then end that command and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of what Markdown, the feature of Markdown. And what a markup language is, it's basically a language that gives you, you put in content as well as some code, and then it creates like a beautiful formatted version of that. So if you know LaTeX, that's a markup language. Okay, so now we're going to use this index as our main landing page. Hopefully you're there in with this like same thing that I'm seeing, and then you can just go to code, and you should see this. It looks like the same thing that we were seeing with the index, but now it kind of like, maybe you notice that it changed color. And what this code is showing you is in these three like hyphens on the top and at the bottom, that is delineating what is called the front matter. That is content that is not going to show up on your page when you load it. When someone, like a user, loads the URL, that is not going to show up. Where what's happening there is you can put some commands, some information that will tell the rest of that page how it should function, how it should look, etc. Everything that goes under the lower hyphens is the content. So what you can see is that in the front matter right now, what we have is this command that says layout, and the type is home, and then author profile true. So what's happening there is that it's telling whatever content you have under the three hyphens is going to take the home template, which I'm going to show you in a second. And the sidebar with the circular picture and the LinkedIn and GitHub and all of that links, it's going to show. If you made that false, then you can turn it off. Okay. So if you don't want that look for your page, you could remove that by making that author profile false there. So what is this layout thing? I have a tab here open for minimal mistakes. So each theme that you have, like the Altfolio or minimal mistakes, will have like a subset of layouts that they have created for that template. And so one of them for minimal mistakes is that one called home. Typically, the people that put these together will have some sort of README file or some sort of guide for their template. And this one is the one for minimal mistakes. So this is a page that tells you what all the different layouts are, and what the features are and all of that. So the reason I wanted to show you this is about, like, as an example, if you wanted to activate and have a page that is the layout with the header and the three little like squares with pictures that I showed you at the beginning, you would go and use this layout called where is it? Splash, right? So you would change the layout after the colon. You would say splash, and that would change the look so that it looks like this. This is the home layout, and it's the simplest one. It's just layout home, and it's like text. And we're using it today because it's the simplest one, but I just wanted to make you aware there are a variety of different layouts. They're all in this, if you Google minimal mistakes layouts, you should land here. And then you can play around with different, like putting something different under after the colon and seeing how you can like have different types of things as your page. We're now going to configure our the author. So this little sidebar, we're gonna like make it so that it has some information relevant to us. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our config YML. And so like if you're not here, like if you need to navigate back to stuff, a really quick way is to go to code, to the top code when you're in your repository. And then that will take you to like, it'll show you everything that's in your page, and that way you can access the config. And let's go ahead and edit it. So again, that pencil icon on the top right. And now we're able to change the contents of this, right? So what I was telling you, this is sort of like a global configuration file that bleeds into all of the other subpages, which means that here it's where it contains all the information about that sidebar, because that sidebar will appear in every page, right? So once you're in edit, find the title and just change it to something that's relevant to you, right? So like I'm gonna make it my name. That seems like a relevant thing. If it's gonna be my own kind of like portfolio page, it could be that, or it could be portfolio, it could be my name, portfolio, whatever. So put down something that you feel would be like a appropriate name for this. And then let's go ahead and scroll down to this part that says author. It says author and then name, avatar, bio, links. Let's go there and just change everything to your own information. So this is where you would change the, you see here assets, images, bio photo. It's calling that template photo. So the reason I told you use a simple name is because then hopefully you can easily recall what the name is of your file. Mine was Dragon Slug. So then I can just change that file name, and now my photo on the sidebar is going to be whatever I uploaded, right? So go ahead and change your avatar file name to whatever it is that you uploaded as your own photo. If you uploaded something that's not a JPEG, change the extension as well, right? That's obviously that's important. So make sure that you know what file extension your file is. It could be a PNG or something. And write down some simple bio. So take a little bit of time to write down a short bio, if you like no more than a couple of sentences. You know, something like graduate student in biological sciences, interested in cell dynamics or something like that, right? So whatever it is that you think a good short bio, and of course, this is for the tutorial, but you can then go back and polish it and change it to something that you want to have it as a more static thing. I'll quickly just explain this part and then give you a little bit of time to like wrap up the bio part. But then under that, you have your links. So this is where you would go. I'm not sure why you have a website link for in the website, but I guess that's useful in some cases. But yeah, it has these links right under the photo here in the template. You see that it has like a link to a website, to Twitter, to GitHub, Instagram. So basically, go ahead and whatever things that you do have a link for, populate that with it. And real quick, if there's something that you don't have and you don't want it to show up, my recommendation is the simplest thing is to just comment it out. Basically, you do that by adding a hashtag symbol in front of whatever the text is. As you can see, when I'm adding that, it like turns it into like dark gray. And that means that it's treating that line as a comment. So it's not going to read it whenever it creates the site. So I don't have an Instagram that I want to link. I put some hashtags in front of those three things. And now the Instagram entry on the sidebar is not going to show up when of course we need to update and save and everything, but yeah. So go ahead and do the bio and any links that you want to add additional. And then, turn off whichever are that is not necessary. And some of you might just want this to be your only online presence. So maybe you just want to comment everything out. That's fine. Yeah, so it says FA LinkedIn. I'm not super knowledgeable about this, so this might not work. Because like I'm not sure if you see how like here it says FA brands. I'm not 100% sure if what you add is like basically FA brands, FA LinkedIn, uh, to replace the whole thing, or if you just replace the FA with LinkedIn. So we'll find out. But okay, so I think hopefully you have done enough that it will reflect some change once we save this, but it's not necessary for you to like do polish this fully for the time being. So we're going to commit the changes here. Oh, no, wait. Let's go ahead and scroll up again, almost to the top, actually, where you have your title, email, and all that. Find the minimal mistakes skin entry, like line in this config file. And this is an opportunity for you to customize your page a little bit. So similar to the way that you have different layouts that were created by the person that made Minimal Mistakes, they also have like a little package of colored settings, I guess. And they are documented here in this configuration part of their user guide. So basically they have skins called air, aqua, contrast, dark, dirt, mint, neon, plum, and sunrise. So just go ahead and pick one and change instead of default in that part that says minimal mistake skin, change it to whatever that name of the skin is. You can just go to you can just Google because I think the URL is kind of long. Yeah, you can just Google minimal mistakes skins and it should take you to this URL and you can scroll down to see the names of the skins and pick whichever seems like nice to you, and then you can change default to that name. I'm going to pick the neon one. It sounds cool. So I'm going to change default to neon. And you can, take a little bit more time to pick something that you really, really like and maybe experiment with some of the, what the text looks like, what the hyperlinks look like and all of that. But for now, let's just pick one. And at this point now, let's go ahead and commit changes. Okay. So you go all the way to the top. You should see that green button at the top right and commit changes. I'm going to keep it simple, update config at YML, and then commit it. And if I go to this actions tab, you don't necessarily have to do this. You will see that it's built like it's kind of like this yellow thing. That means that it's like queued. It's waiting to actually even start. Well, when queuing is done, it will be this like yellow rotating thing. And when the process is finalized, it'll turn into that green check mark. Before that happens, your site will not see the changes that you've made. Because what's happening here is that that process of Jekyll turning Markdown into an HTML is being done behind the scenes. Oh yeah, so it changed into the rotating thing. And sometimes it's done before it actually, I have to like reload the page for it to be green. But now you should be able to go back to your URL, your username.github.io, refresh it, and you should see the changes that you've made. So I'm seeing my neon theme, I'm seeing my Dragon's log, my name, the Instagram link entry is gone, right? Can I see nods of success? Just to make sure that. So what you can see now is that our landing page, which is that index file, it had the layout called home. That is some sort of default type of layout that shows posts. So the way that Minimal Mistakes is set up is like a blog. You create posts and then it stores them with some metadata about like the post date, the post title, the post tags, and stuff like that. I do not like that format. I don't like the blog post format. Some people do, and it's useful in some cases. But I'm gonna show you a way to not do that because to me, at least, it looks more professional to have a site that is not blog looking or blog oriented. But you can continue using that if it's to your benefit. So in order to do that, we're going to go back to our repository here. So I'm going to go to code and access my my index.md. So go to your index file. And if you need to, if it's showing you preview, go to the code and go to edit so that you can edit it. And in order to get rid of that layout that shows you the most recent blog posts, we're going to use one called single. So we're going to change the layout to single. That's a type of layout that basically is just plain text. Whatever you enter there is what it shows you. And now we're ready to populate the site a little bit. So, as I was saying before, under what happens in between sandwiched these three hyphens is your front matter, that's instructions, but whatever you put underneath is the content. And so let's go ahead and populate our landing page with whatever it is that you think should go there. So as an example, I'm gonna go through an example, but whatever you feel is appropriate, feel free to put that there. But let's put in some content. So I'm gonna say like, I am a graduate student. I'm going back into the past when I was a grad student in biology. So I'm a grad student in biology, or actually a PhD student, let's be more specific, at University College Park. My research interests are in the area of cell dynamics or something. My main projects are, and then I'm gonna put, like project 1, project 2, project 3. And, like you can then populate your landing page as you wish. But this is an opportunity to show you a little bit about Markdown. So I'm going to, obviously, I wouldn't do this if I, like for the real version of this, but I'm going to make PhD student bold. So in order to make PhD student bold, I'm going to add an asterisk before it and another one after. Or sorry, that's italics. It's two asterisks. So if I add 2 asterisks before, 2 asterisks afterwards, that is the command to make that whatever's between them bold. That's Markdown, like that's one of the core basic Markdown commands. And as you saw before, if it's just 1 asterisk, that's how you make things italics. You see here these dashes that I have for my projects. Those are going to turn into bullet points. So that's Markdown for bullet points, like just a dash space something, and then you put, that you make your list. If you do 1 something, 2 something, that is like an ordered list. And if you want to know more about various Markdown things that you can do with Markdown, you can go, like a nice resource is markdownguide.org. It has this tab called basic syntax. It has all the basic stuff. So yeah, you can do headings with these like hashtags up to heading 6, maybe more. You can do, let's see what else. This one is for bolding. So yeah, it's like you can bold with 2 asterisks or you can bold with 2 underscores. You can do italics with 1 asterisk or 1 underscore. So if you go here, it'll tell you the basic kind of like types of ways to achieve different things with Markdown. All right, so yeah, here's the lists. So you can just use numbers for ordered lists, or the dashes for just bulleted lists. And you can scroll down and check out like all the different things. It tells you how to put images, put links, different kinds of things. There's also an extended syntax tab that has more advanced things. So if you want to get a little bit more advanced, there's where you go. And there's also a cheat sheet that has like really summarized all the basics. Okay. So depending on what you want to do with your content to make it look, like in different, add links, add images and stuff like that, that's how you do it. So I'm gonna go back here. Yeah, I mean, basically, whatever content you have now, I think is probably sufficient for us to commit the changes and then go and see how that should be reflected on our page. So commit changes, wait a little bit for this to be deployed, and then we can take a look. Something that I want to point out now is that this is not the most efficient way to do this. There are other ways to kind of like do the whole like pipeline, the workflow of updating your site, committing, and all of that. But that's much more complex. If someone's interested in that, we can talk about it one-on-one. But like the ideal way to do this is not by committing every single little change that you make a bunch of times and then having GitHub like go into this queue and like update it. There's better ways to do this, but for the purposes of this tutorial, we're doing it this a little bit less efficient way. So let's see what's happening here. So for me, it turned green, and I'm gonna go back to my homepage, and hopefully this didn't work. My actual browser. How do I check this? Yeah, it was just my browser, not like it was remembering the previous site. So if that happened to you where it didn't like show you any changes, it might be that your browser's like cache is messing things up and you're not seeing the real like new page. But I went to another browser and you can see here that like now it changed that home that shows you just posts in order to that new single layout that shows whatever I tell it to say in just like plain text. And you can make this nicer by adding images or adding links and all that stuff once you look into, how Markdown works and all of that. But of course, this is a very simple, kind of like very straightforward thing. Like you're not gonna be able to do like super fancy, like, one of those things that like is a carousel or something that like pops, out. That's, you need much more advanced type of web page development language to achieve that. Okay, right. So now we're going to go to this back to our code, or if you can find your sidebar here, we're going to go to data, navigation, that navigation configuration file, the YML. And you should see this thing that says main, title, post, title categories, URL categories, right? As you might kind of guess, if you go back to your file, you can see a menu that has that same list of things. That navigation YML is what tells it what your navigation bar is, right? So you can tell it, you can just pick whatever sections you want in your page and populate this navigation file with them. So we're going to do that. We're going to now create sections for our site based on whatever we want to feature in it. So we're going to edit that file, that navigation file with that pencil icon, whatever you want, right? So like change the title and change the URL to that name of the page, the sub page that you want. So I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to have one that's presentations. Well, I'm going to have one that's called projects. One called teaching. And another one called publications. So pretty straightforward. It's, you can name the URL whatever you want and the title whatever you want. They can be different things, but of course for consistency and for people to make it easier for them to navigate your page, they probably should just be the same thing. So once you're done typing in some new categories, you can now commit the changes so that your navigation YML file is saved. And again, not the most efficient way, but then you have to wait for GitHub to deploy it, to build it and deploy it. Mine is now spinning. And sometimes like it can take a while, especially if you have a larger job in GitHub, like basically the servers are there being used by a bunch of people. And sometimes there's a lot of people using it and it might take a while. So don't take it for granted. So now it has my check mark. I'm gonna go check and hopefully this will refresh properly. Yep, okay. So you can see that my menu now says, has the new items that I gave it, right? Presentations, projects, teaching, publications. If I click on them, I'll probably get a page not found because they don't exist. I just created these like new pages that we haven't like actually created in our repository. So we're gonna fix that, right? So let's go ahead and do that by going back to our repository. I'm gonna go to code. Share file. And you see that there's another folder under data called pages. That's where you add your new pages, right? You can do it by adding a file, create a new file called presentation.md and then populate it. Because we already have some here that were pre-populated, we're just gonna do it that way. So let's go ahead and take advantage of the about.md as one that already existed, and use that to make it into our one of the new ones that we had. So click into about.md. It should give you this template. Go to code, and go to edit this file. And then what you need to do is to change the permalink to the whatever it is that you want it to be. So I'm gonna make it presentations. I'm gonna change this to presentations. And I'm gonna change the name from about to presentations, just for consistency, for everything to be the same. In reality, the only one that you really have to change for everything to work is the permalink, right? Because that's where your menu bar is pointing to. But I changed everything to presentations. And before we save it, we're just gonna, since we're already here, let's go ahead and do a little bit of additional work in our site. So even if you weren't calling yours presentations, let's kind of treat this as our presentations page. This is just a bunch of like template text, but let's kind of like pretend that we have a few presentations that we have done in the past and we want to list them here in this page. We're gonna take advantage of this kind of like bullet point thing. So I'm gonna put a dash. I'm not gonna put the full name, and it's gonna say presentation 1, author, or at least let's assume that I was the first author. Author 2, author 3 or something. And I presented this at the Biosciences Day 2024, UMD College Park, something like that, right? Let's kind of like make up a presentation. And if you have a real one that you can quickly access, feel free to enter your real one. And let's go ahead to, just as an example, presentation 2, presentation 3. Let's say that one of them was recorded. So I'm going to show you how to embed like the video of the recording. So if you have this, the same thing that I have with 3 presentations listed with the bullet point indicator on top, you can just situate yourself at the end of one of those lines, hit enter. It will create a new like entry in the bullet points. Just hit delete once so that it basically stays indented within that presentation, but it's not going to treat it as a new entry in the bullet points. And we're going to embed our video. So if you have a video that you can quickly access that is something actually that recorded of your talk, feel free to go there. But if not, let's just find any sort of video on YouTube that's been uploaded to YouTube. So I'm gonna go to the YouTube of this program that I run. And if you want to do this exactly as me, feel free to do it if you can't think of anything. I'm gonna go to YouTube, Trend REU. If you're following me, just type Trend REU. This is an undergrad research program that I run in the summer, and we record our presentation. So it's like the easiest thing for me to quickly like access a video of a recording. But feel free to access whatever video. So I just need to, in order to do this, I need to have a video that's been uploaded to YouTube. And of course, if you have recordings, you can create your YouTube account and upload videos there and then have that same type of access. And I'm gonna go to any of these, the fish swimming one. I'm gonna go to the video, I'm gonna click share, and I'm gonna click embed. And it's going to show me this like pop-up window that has this code on the side. Do you see this thing that says iframe? I can copy that. At the bottom, it says copy. And basically this YouTube has given me the code that will embed the video into the website, right? So I copied it. I can go back to my presentations.md and I can paste that code, okay? So what's happening here is that we're taking advantage of a feature of Markdown, which is that you can enter HTML code into Markdown. So if you know HTML, you can do a little bit more fancier things in Markdown by just embedding HTML code in there, and it will just like treat it as such. So iframe is a command in HTML that allows you to embed things into the page. And YouTube has a way to quickly give you the code for that specific video for you to embed it. There are some changes that you could make in terms of like how big, how small it is. Like, you can see here width and height are predetermined here. That's a different story. You can like, learn a little bit more about iframes if you want to manipulate it a little bit differently. But for now, once we commit those changes, we will see that our video is now showing up under our first presentation. So for our presentation too, let's say that we don't have a video, but we have a PDF of the slides or something. And I asked you to come with a PDF of your CV. I kind of like, when I was putting together the tutorial, I changed from embedding the CV to embedding a PDF of slides. But if that's the file you have, it's, it doesn't matter. Just use whatever PDF that you brought. And if you don't have a PDF, feel free to just see what I'm doing, and like you can look at the recording to replicate it when you do have access to a PDF of something. But I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna situate myself at the end of that presentation too. Gonna hit enter. Gonna delete that bullet point entry. And this is something that I found just when putting together this tutorial using Google Drive. So there are different ways to embed PDFs into Markdown. This is the one that I kind of right now feel is the easiest one. There's one that you can use taking advantage of Adobe's like PDF embedding and like printing features, but you would have to create an account for it. This one, I guess in principle for this one you have to create an account in Google Drive, but I would assume that everyone has one because everyone at UMD is using Drive. So the way that we do this basically is we need a PDF in our drive. So let's go ahead and go to your drive, like your UMD drive. Hopefully this is like easily accessible for everyone, since I assume everyone's here is a UMD person. And if you don't have a PDF there already, go ahead and upload your, whatever PDF you were supposed to be bringing. I'm gonna do that myself right now. I have downloaded this PDF of some slides for a presentation that I've given in the past. I'm just gonna upload it directly to like my main drive folder. Right. And once you have the PDF on Drive, what you have to do is you have to access that PDF, like double click it. This is like kind of a weird, I think this is more of a hack than a feature. But you double click it to get the preview. You go to these three dots that you see, like more actions at the top. And then you open it in a new window. So then you have this, your PDF is showing up here in a new tab. And then if you go again to those three dots, for some reason, it has now a new feature that says embed item. So I know this might be getting a little bit complicated, but I'm happy to like guide you through a process later, one-on-one. So now that you have opened your PDF in a new tab, you have the ability to embed it. And when you go there, it shows you this code to embed the PDF. It's also an iframe, right? So we talked a little bit about iframes when I was showing you the YouTube video. It's the same thing, but now it's your PDF. So in order for this to work, you have to make sure that your sharing is like as public as possible. I'm gonna change this to anyone with the link can view. So if you're following the steps and you haven't done this and it doesn't work, it's likely because your permissions aren't right. So keep that in mind, but I'm gonna do it again just to make sure. I'm gonna go to those three dots, embed item, copy the iframe code, and bring it back to my, paste it under presentation 2. All right, so I'm not sure where everyone is, but I'm gonna commit. So if you're here with all these iframes already, you can go ahead and commit, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let GitHub populate my commit message. And I'm gonna go to actions just to be able to keep track of the status before I show you the results. If it's an X, I would recommend clicking into that item. Let's say when I go here to this one, it'll give me details about it and rerun all the jobs until it rerun. So you're telling it, do it again. If that doesn't work, we can talk one-on-one a little bit how to like fix that. But yeah, hopefully that's enough for it to help. All right, now it's spinning. Maybe it's already green. Yep, it's already green. So I'm gonna go to my presentations, and if everything worked okay, I will see, yeah, everything worked okay. So you can see here, I have my presentation 1, which is like a bullet point, and then underneath I have my embedded YouTube video. I have my presentation 2, which is a bullet point, and underneath I have my embedded PDF, right? And then presentation 3, I didn't do anything for it, but that's, that was what I was expecting. Okay, so we only have 10 minutes, which means that I will not do the last step. I'm gonna tell you what it is, and I will be happy to give you guidance and give you like maybe the steps to follow in order to achieve it. What I was going to show you is a way to add the functionality to your page to be able to insert LaTeX commands and for it to like render mathematical formulas and equations using LaTeX. Okay, so I think I can show you an example of this with one time I did this tutorial for another group. Yeah, so this one, I did this tutorial for a group of high schoolers, and we worked on like adding mathematical formulas, equations, etc., using the ability to put LaTeX code into your site. So here we did, like we have this text, and then after it has this like square root of 3x minus 1, etc., right? So if you want that functionality, I'll be happy to tell you how to achieve that. Okay. I did that primarily because I work with a group of people that are in math. So not exactly sure how relevant this will be to some of you in the group, but happy to show you. The other thing that I will skip is you also have the ability to add footnotes. So this is I'm glad I came here because I can give you an example of that. So like if you go to Markdown guide, it will, in the advanced tab, it will tell you how to do footnotes. It's pretty simple. Like it's a very simple command, but basically you put the command, you put like the text, you add some command to tell it footnote 1, and then at the bottom of your document, you write down what the actual footnote is, and then it kind of like matches your references 1-to-1 based on that. So this is a nice way to do like references, right? Like like I said, Markdown is not super fancy. But you can sort of like use some of the features it has for the purposes of like our academic communication purposes, like, oh, I want to do some reference, like a reference section at the end of my page. You can do that with the footnotes thing. So right here you see footnote 1 and then footnotes 2 and 3. And then when I scroll down, it shows the actual like references here. And I could put, at the bottom, I could put a reference. I could put like a hyperlink to the actual paper using, if you go to Markdown guide, you can see how you can include hyperlinks in your code. So you could achieve that with to have a reference section. And yeah, in the last 7 minutes, then I'm happy to answer questions or people that were maybe got left behind. I'm happy to help you all catch up or whatever. But yeah. So basically what I do is I do it all on my side on the computer instead of like the interface, the GitHub interface. So it's not easy. I don't know if there's an easier way, but the next up is I use something called Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna open it now. Some people might be familiar with Visual Studio Code. It's a code editor basically that allows you to do coding in like many different types of languages. I use Visual Studio Code to have the equivalent of all of these files. I have them living in my computer offline. I make all the edits there, and then I use something called GitHub Desktop, which is a way for you to interface between your computer and GitHub and tell it, oh, all these files that I made changes to, upload them all at the same time and commit all those changes at the same time. Does that make sense? So it's actually not super hard to set up, but it takes, some steps before you achieve it. And that's how I do it. In addition to that, you could in principle do something where like you have a local server and you create all these changes. You kind of like make them live in a fake way inside of your computer to see what they look like, and then you commit to GitHub. So that's another way, but that is the next step of complicated and possibly, if you're not going to do anything super fancy with your site, it might not be worth it. Yeah. Instead of changing the about. So you go to pages and you say, once you know that you're in site pages, you add a new file and you create a new file. And then you just say outreach.md. And then whatever content you want. So the reason that I used the about is because it already had a front matter and it was gonna be easier. But because here like, you're creating one from scratch, you have to make sure that you're familiar with like creating the front matter so that it like actually works. So in that case, you can. I mean, the easiest thing could be like you can just go to one that exists, copy the front matter, and paste it in there to make sure that it's something that is kind of like compatible with the minimal mistakes, right? But yeah, is that good?